In the mid-1980s, about when I was born, Jim Bakker was one of the most recognizable Christian figures in America. His TV show, the PTL Club, reached millions each week, and donations poured in at over $1 million every 7 days. He had a Christian theme park called Heritage USA. It was complete with hotels, water parks, shops, and of course, a prayer center. And it became the third most visited park in America, right behind Disney World and Disneyland. It was this Christian Disneyland. And for a moment, it looked unstoppable. But within just a few years, it all collapsed. Sex scandals, financial fraud, bankruptcy, and prison. Bakker went from televangelist superstar to a national punchline. So, how did something so massive fall apart so fast? I'm Bo Shevasu, a missionary ministry leader and founder of several Bible-based ministries, Knok Studio for one. And in this particular series, we examine the most provocative movements that has shaped Christian culture so that our ministries can avoid their mistakes. Because the goal isn't to dunk on fallen leaders, it's to build healthier, more Christ-honoring ministries going forward. Jim Bakker's rise started small. In the 1960s, he and his wife, Tammy Faye, used puppets and children's songs on local TV. He later helped launch a Pat Robertson 700 Club. Then in 1974, launched the PTL Club, a talk show meets church format with bright lights, interviews, music, and very emotional moments from Tammy Faye. It felt fresh, upbeat, and accessible. People loved it, and they gave a lot. By the early 80s, PTL was raising over $100 million a year. So with the influx of donations, Bakker built Heritage USA in South Carolina, a massive 2,300-acre Christian resort. I'm not kidding. At its peak, nearly 6 million visitors came every year. And we're talking more than the Grand Canyon. But behind the smiles and mascara, tears, the finances were shaky. The Bakkers lived lavishly, luxury cars, mansions, even an air-conditioned doghouse. PTL was always spending more than it brought in. Then came the infamous lifetime partnerships. Ugh. For only $1,000, donors were promised a 3-night stay every year at the Heritage Grand Hotel. Bakker sold 66,000 partnerships for a hotel that just had 500 rooms. As one member warned, Jim, this could land someone in jail. And by 1987, PTL was drowning in debt, losing around $2 million a month. And then the bomb dropped. Newspapers broke the story that years earlier, Bakker had a sexual encounter with a 21-year-old church secretary, Jessica Hahn, and PTL paid her more than $200,000 in hush money using donor funds. Well, days later, Bakker resigned. He handed PTL to Jerry Falwell, hoping for help. Instead, Falwell publicly declared Bakker unfit for ministry and revealed the ministry's massive debts and exposed years of financial misconduct. Federal investigators found that tens of millions of donor dollars had been misused for private perks, luxury spending, and, of course, an oversold hotel partnership. And it would never mathematically make any possible sense to fulfill these promises. In 1989, Jim Bakker was convicted on 24 counts of fraud and conspiracy. The judge, tired of televangelist scandals, sentenced him to 45 years in prison and fined him $500,000. One line from the courtroom echoed across the country, quote, "Those of us who do have a religion are sick of being saps for money-grubbing preachers." Well, Heritage USA went bankrupt and closed. Donors who paid for this $1,000 lifetime membership of stays at this hotel, they received a refund in the amount of $6.54. Yes, $6 after all that. It just crumpled. Bakker's story took on this very unexpected turn. His 45-year sentence was actually reduced, and he was released after serving almost 5 years in prison. He wrote, "I was wrong, admitting I was teaching an imposter gospel. Okay. Today, he leads a much smaller ministry in Missouri and focuses largely on end times teaching. Ugh. Whether you agree with his theology or not, he openly warns others about the mistakes that destroyed PTL. So, what do we learn from one of Christianity's most dramatic implosions, if we were to even call it Christianity? Let's just hop into the 4 very brief lessons. Lesson 1, accountability isn't optional. Bakker had almost total control and effectively no oversight over him. Ministries thrive when leaders welcome correction and transparency. Lesson 2, prosperity promises are spiritually dangerous. Telling people that donations guarantee blessings are to fill their offering plates, that ultimately empties your integrity out of your ministry. Lesson 3, charisma can't replace character. Jim and Tammy were entertaining, but spectacle can distract from serious structural problems. And lastly, lesson 4, transparency, it just matters. I've mentioned this before, but it's worth saying again. PTL's donors have no idea that the ministry was drowning in debt from their donations, despite their donations. So honest books might have prevented this disaster. Now, a final word, because if we stop here, the story feels kind of hopeless, like, shame on this quack. But the Christian faith isn't defined by Jim Bakker or even by scandals or by fallen leaders. I am a Christian myself, and I love Jesus. He has radically changed my life, but not because of wealthy pastors or fancy broadcasts or even puppets, even though I have one myself, but because the gospel is more powerful when people even fail spectacularly. That's why Jesus came, because we have failed. So these stories aren't here to make us cynical. They're here so we can build ministries rooted in humility, accountability, and the real Jesus. Not wealth, not fame, and not even performance. People will fail. I have fallen. I continue to fall. But by the grace of God, Jesus is there for me. And yes, even institutions fail. But Christ does not. And that's why we learn from these past mistakes so that we don't repeat them in the future.